Well, y'all should have seen this coming. Tour champion Jon Zimmer Jr. Months of working and grinding getting to this point, and despite a hard-fought lineup with some of the toughest competition, he got it done. This is going to be a bit different, as we're instead going to go down week to week and look at the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of Jon Zimmer Jr. and Setback Motorsports winning the Arena Central Tour. Let's cut the preamble and get started. So, I've spoken about Zimmer Jr. in my first vid way back when talking about Zimmer Sr. I'd recommend checking that out, but short end is he would finish runner-up in his 2023 tour and be relegated to only two-wheel skills, much to the ire of the monster truck community, who felt a full invite was more than deserved. A shakeup and the launch of Setback Motorsports would lead to them running All-Star in 2024, with Jon in a new terminal velocity and his pops in a new upward machine. Jon and Jon would finish 1-2, with terminal velocity taking the crown. Ironically, their biggest competition on that tour would be the Robbins brothers in Crazy Train and Playing Crazy, who would be the other independent team on their upcoming tour this year. The team would make their return to Moss Jam in Nashville as Terminal Velocity's first stadium show, which was rough. However, a good cluster of arena stops would see Jon shake off the rust and secure his first overalls under the new banner, and the team expressed full intentions to run Moss Jam for 2025, now featuring crew member and crew chief Chuck Pauken III, who will be helping and become vital to the story. Jon will retain terminal velocity while Upward will be converted to Zombie. Stated above, the Robbins brothers of Triton and Montana in Crazy Train and Playing Crazy would make up the other independent team, as they would run their first full season with Moss Jam as well. Angelina Knock would campaign Megalodon in her sophomore season, and Jamie Sullivan, who had a breakout 2024, would be running a second Sparkle Smash. Fernando Martinez, who competed with Jon in the virtual realm, would now take it to the real world with El Toro Loco. And finally, Matt Cody, who took over the seat vacated by Brandon Vinson, would look to win his first tour entirely on his lonesome versus coming in part way and keeping the throne in House Digger. Honestly, on paper this seemed like the most even tour, and looking at how the points broke down, at least among the arenas, it definitely showed. Weston Anderson demolished Arena West, where despite some strong competition from Devin Winfield, Cody Saucier, and Brianna Mahan, honestly the second place battle was way more interesting than the first. East looked relatively even on paper, until it was announced Blake Granger was driving Rosemont Dalmatian, and yeah, that's on wraps. This isn't a slack off the drivers on either of those tours, but Weston and Blake were arguably the two best arena drivers out there, especially with the likes of Armando Castro and Dalton Widener moving to stadiums. But this Central Tour really had an even spread. It was anyone's game. Of course, winning this tour meant an automatic bid into the World Finals, where really, aside from Zimmer Sr. and Jamie Sullivan, if any of the other 6 drivers won this tour, they would get their first berth at the championship. The tour would start in an all-too-familiar place, Nashville, Tennessee. However, this would be in the Bridgestone Arena versus Nissan Stadium. Jon started off strong, securing the first racing win and the first W of the season, taking down his father in Zombie. However, this was the highlight of the weekend for him. Truck issues and no further wins in the score competitions meant all the overalls would go to Matt Cody, Jamie Sullivan, and at least to the team, Jon Zimmer Sr. would take the first overall of the tour in Zombie. Week 1 normally isn't the fullest indicator of how things would play out, but he would be on an 11-point deficit and down not only his dad, but also Jamie, Matt, and Fern. The tour would roll into Milwaukee, and this is where things really got cooking. Early on, Jon showed himself to be the top of the two-wheel skill board, taking 2 of the 3 plus a racing and freestyle win, with enough consistency to secure 2 of the first 3 overalls on the weekend, while Fern would get his first on the year. Jon would only chop down 3 points on his deficit, but would overtake everyone else to sit in second just behind Fern and El Toro Loco. The tour would take an early 1-week break before heading to Newark, New Jersey. 2 overalls on the weekend, while Matt and Jamie would get 1 respectively. Jon was definitely the strongest in skills, but he would still stay in position with the others in all other competitions, even if he didn't win, which I think helped out a ton. This could be signified as for the first time on the season, Jon would take over the points battle. Matt Cody would keep within striking distance, being 6 points down, and Fern being down 11, with Jamie also only 34 points off. Honestly, this is where the game really would come into its own. A massive weekend at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn would bring Moss Jam for the first time to the heart of New York City. Despite not getting the first event, as Jamie Sullivan would launch an insane backflip to take the first overall of the weekend, Jon would keep consistent. So much so that he could be called Mr. Consistency, which I have to imagine Gary Porter would probably agree with that. 3 more overalls would come his way, even fighting through rear steer issues to clinch a skill win. This would expand his lead to 19 points over Matt, but Belmont Park the next weekend would be a weekend from hell. Jon didn't secure a single win throughout the whole weekend, and instead Matt Cody would lay waste to his lead, taking all 4 overalls. The former Vaughters driver wasn't going down without a fight, and Matt would for the first time clinch the Tour lead, now not only eradicating Jon's lead, but put him 25 points down. Worcester wouldn't help out his case, as he would once again go without a win, as instead Fern, Matt, Jamie, and the guy he took the All-Star crown from last year, Triton Robinson Crazy Train, would all take overalls on the weekend. What started off strong seemed to be faltering. The truck did have some issues, and he seemed to have rough luck, with scores now putting him down 34 points of Matt, with Jamie only 6 points behind him. Little Rock would be only 2 events, and he would clinch his first win since Brooklyn in the first skills competition. But Fern and Matt would take overalls. The one upside is each of these respective winners had a wildly different event from the one they didn't win. He would start pushing back, taking 9 points off his deficit from Matt. And next would be Rosemont outside Chicago with a mind-melting 5-event slugfest. Jon would take the first racing and skills, then a second skills, then his first overall since Brooklyn, followed by one after, and another skills to sweep the competition on the weekend. This was a good weekend for him. He would now be 20 points behind Matt, who took no overalls on the weekend. Grand Rapids was next, and despite the weekend overall belonging to Jamie Sullivan taking 4 out of the 5 overalls, Jon would secure a solid one in the weekend and again keep consistent, whereas Diggard struggled and would tie Matt for the lead, with Jamie of course absolutely owning the weekend, now only 9 points down. Toledo, Ohio was next, and my god. Jon, fresh off of his birthday, would take an overall on Friday, a clean sweep on Saturday evening, including by now getting backflips regularly into his freestyles, and 2 more to reclaim the Tour 32 points over Matt. Next would be Green Bay, Wisconsin, where he would secure 2 more overalls and finish runner-up Saturday afternoon to the man he bested, Triton, with the first show really being his only blemish on the weekend. Back up to the northeast in Hartford, Connecticut, where Jon would once again clinch up 2 more overalls, and despite winning freestyle and skills, finish right behind Jamie Sullivan. Honestly, during these last 2 weekends, it would be Jamie and Triton being Jon's only competition. And even with the freestyle time infractions, which is the dumbest thing ever, he was still keeping his throne. Albany the following weekend having a truncated lineup, it wouldn't be for points, so I'll gloss over it, but if you're curious, 2 overalls, but a rough final event going to, of course, Jamie. It's interesting, right, that for the last few weekends, Jon has taken at least half of, if not the lion's share of overall event wins, where it seemed Fern and Matt have been struggling to keep pace. Going to the first point event of April in Hampton, Virginia, Jon had widened his lead to 54 points over Gravedigger. While not out of the woods, of the remaining 5 weekends, only 3 would be points-paying events, including this one. While Matt would get his first overall in what feels like a while, Jon would clean sweep the second show and get the remaining skills win to keep in contention. Now, the lead has expanded to 71 points, and Jamie Sullivan, who has probably been the second best driver win-wise in this backstretch, had been creeping up on Matt, now 6 points behind. The points-paying events would alternate, with Evansville and Moline only having 6 trucks, while South Haven and Lexington would be the final shot for the drivers to close up the gap before Salt Lake City. All eyes were on the Landers Center. He started off strong, finishing second in racing, then clinching up skills once again. He would finish third in freestyle but start off with another overall. Event 2, skills win, and despite losing to the Robins, who seemed to be having a late season comeback, he was still in contention ahead of Jamie and Matt. Jamie would take freestyle, but Triton would secure the overall. Event 3, where he mathematically had the chance to clinch up tonight. All three would fall in round 1, but by placing the highest in skills, it was announced. He did it. The title was his. We wouldn't have to wait until Lexington. We wouldn't even have to wait until the weekend. Hell, we wouldn't have to wait until the end of this show. Right here, right now, he was titled Tour Champion. Many tried, but no one could top him. Jon Zimmer Jr. clinched his first Monster Jam Point Series title. In all of Monster Jam's Point Series, in the over 10 years they have done points battle, no independent driver has ever clinched a tour. Some folks have gotten close, but never been able to seal the deal until this year. What's wild too is this is Jon's 4th full year and his 3rd with Monster Jam. I talked about this way back when in my video about Zimmer Sr., but I truly think this is a generational talent and arguably in the top 5 independent drivers out there. And spoiler alert, he's definitely not 4, 5, or 3 for sure. However, for those who have put it in doubt,
hey yo, what the fuck?
I hope this helps cement his legacy. And quite frankly, even if this somehow ends up being his only series championship, I'm highly doubtful this will be the case though. When you take a step back and look at the scope of this, it's truly amazing how to go from a little kid watching his dad to now not only competing with him, but bring the team its first 2 championships, including what many consider a crown jewel. Not only that, but be the first to do it out of their own dime. I'm not someone that hates company drivers or anything like that, but there's something to be said about the weekend warriors who have cut their teeth and do this out of their own pocket to win. It's very common to see the best independent talent get into the fold of FELD, his dad included. But Jon did it his way, the way he always intended to. Do you think anyone, especially him, thought that when he uploaded his first version of Terminal Velocity on Sim Monsters some 7 years ago we would be here? I don't know. But what I do know is it couldn't have happened to a better driver and a better team. I always say where things go from here is a question, but let's be real, he's going to go down as one of the greatest of all time. When we look back on the best drivers of the 2020s, his name will be up there at the top of the leaderboard without question or debate. Now, we wait for Salt Lake and see what happens. But anyways, I've gone off track, and I'll see you all next time.